Hello, YouTube viewers. Take two. Hello, YouTube viewers. Take two. First time. I think I'll just leave it in there. Welcome to Sunday in the Shop. Let's see if we can burn some incense in here. We're going to hang this down inside of the pipe. We made a bottle with a hole above, and then this pin will go across there to hold the ring. So we'll be right back. We'll get it lit up and see what it looks like. Well, it works. I'm sure we'll get more smoke more than it burns, but I get these for $1 at the gas station. I know 2 different gas stations I can get them. This one's like a cotton candy, you get like cinnamon. I don't like the real stinky, really nasty ones, but it makes it more pleasant in here. But okay, we gotta think of something to make a video on. We're gonna show you our progress on our second little stove build. We'll show you some of that. Then I'm going to ask some advice on soldering. I bought some solder and I haven't had no luck trying it. Okay, here's our second stove build so far. We'd braced 3 of these corners and one of them we'd spot welded. Okay. We'll have all this in a video how we made that little latch. Might not describe it, you might see the pictures again. Over here, there's a lot of hinges. They just weren't, the holes were just in the wrong spot. We may spot weld them nuts when we're done. We wanted to look at bolts. We want this to look like it was just a cobbled together hobo stove. Like the spring and the big screw. That's a metric 5. This is metric 4. These are metric 3. Open this up. I'll show you how I countersunk those and ground them down. It did take a lot of work to get that to line up just right. Okay, we're going to show you some solder here. We're going to have some pictures of it. And we'll show you where we soldered at. You know, we never have a pointer. You ever notice I'm always doing that? Looking for a pointer. Let me find a pointer. Okay, this pencil will work. We soldered this right here. It took some solder, and that was about it. Sorry about getting off camera. We're looking around the camera instead of looking through the viewfinder. See, we'll look around the camera like this, and the camera moves. So we just hate using a tripod when we don't have to. Okay, let's show you the solder that we used. Okay, here's the solder we used. This is probably about, oh geez, it's under $4, probably around this $4. See, I wanted to make sure it said metal. Galvanized gutters, fill metal seams. We'll take a picture of both sides. We used our little micro torch. If you remember me buying that little bitty torch, having so much trouble with it. So, we didn't have a whole lot of flame. So, it wasn't as hot as what you'd think it was. Because we do not have a big electric soldering iron. Here's the paste flux. You know I'm not going to get it open with one hand. It's gray colored. We'll pause again. There, it's gray colored. We tried several different things. We tried warming it up. We tried putting some flux in there, warming it up, let the solder kind of boil a little bit, and then cool up, and then go ahead and heat it again, and then put the solder on it. It would not take. We scrubbed the metal. It was as clean as we could get the metal. We had it ground clean. We didn't take no alcohol or nothing to it. It was ground down clean. So, I don't know what the deal is. Does anybody got any advice? Am I going to have to get a big electric soldering iron? I have a soldering gun. That's only like 140 watts or whatever. Well, we'll take pictures of these so you can see what each item is. And this is the kind that says tinning flux. There was 2 kinds in the store. Said we've never really soldered any copper pipe. I worked at a radiator shop. We had this powdered stuff. So like when you put the end on the old brass copper radiators, we'd sprinkle this powdered stuff on there, take the torch to it, it would turn silver and tin to copper or brass, so then we could just heat it up again. And maybe a little bit of paste flux. We had like some liquid flux, and then we just float a solder in there. So that's the only time I've ever did metal, copper, or anything. So let me snap a couple of pictures before I forget, and then we'll go on to something else. Here's our latest homemade project. This works good. I had to cut to see where this is marked. I had to cut a piece off here, and I'll clamp a straight edge. It's kind of hard to get a vice grips on it. I had to kind of turn at an angle. Excuse me, my voice is so rough. It rained for what, 2 days straight. Every time it rains, I get this respiratory, cold, nasty. It's not me out in the cold. I think it's air pollution. But there you go. I have to pause and do some coughing and gagging and take a drink of lemonade. Perfectly flat. Then that's how we did that for the bolt. And our battery symbol's flashing. That's normal. It does too. It never does at the beginning of the video. It does like halfway through. Okay, take 2 of this. We're going to show you how we had to repair this. I mean, you just got to use your imagination. This started pulling out in this housing up in here. So we had to take it and chop it all down and everything. And it's rubber with that metal like you put wiring in a building. They call that spiraled metal. It just broke and was ripping out of there. So we crammed that in there, okay? This all happened at one time. That started flopping next thing you know, and I'll show you where it broke before, or after. So that's 2 pieces of welding rods, see them? All cobbled and taped, duct taped this to make it look better. Shove the spring on her so this is even longer. Okay, carefully come over here because this is take 2. Okay, there's also a spring in here. So that cable flops around inside of a spring. So it's that rubber, then that spiraled metal, then there's a spring, and then the cable goes in a spring. Well, your cable goes up to like a hollow shaft. It's crimped in there. Then you got a couple bearings, and the shaft goes out. Okay, it busted right exactly where it goes in there. It snapped it right off. Whatever was doing up there, I looked up, started flopping, and just went full speed. The tool and this stopped working. So it broke it in here. So I drilled into that shaft, cut the this housing back, okay, shoved the cable in there and crimped it. So I wasn't about to make a video on it. It was headache enough. So you can imagine your mind what it's like. You got a shaft, a bearing, and a bearing. This goes together. There's a metal ring right in here that holds this together tight before you put the screws on. And that's just crimped into a hollow shaft on the end. So I just took a hammer and smashed it down. $40 they want for another one of these. Well, they gave $60 for the tool. I found a cheap cables like on Amazon. They're like $20. We're going to go this till it finally goes and doesn't go anymore. Then we're going to see what else we can do. But that was only 10 months. But I put this through a lot of hard service. And I probably never had the proper... I always had it in a corner and stuff in kink. So now I've got a better run. It comes down. Comes over here to the desk. So there's only a curve there, and I try to use it like this. So I was getting to where I was going like this, if I could show you. I was getting it where it was kind of running like that sometimes. So that would be a no-no. I would say never put any bigger kink in here than about like this. Because this was in the corner, and it was in the corner of my table before. Well, that was kind of bringing me down and backwards. Now it's more of a slope over into the working area. It's working. It shakes and vibrates, but it works. But beware, these things aren't going to last forever. They're not like those big old machines that had that big motor that hung up years ago, which they still make for a few $100s. But we're not going to complain for the price. It almost lasts a year, and I fixed it again. And we won't talk about the speed control. but we will. Okay. The speed control wouldn't stay on high. So what we did was, we drove these little wedges there on high, and there's even a paper thing that was falling off with numbers. And I don't know if that was making it catch. It would not click on high. I tore this all apart, turned it on, and you could hear a nice definite click. It was on full speed. So we're using our Dremel on, like we did our Dremel stuff. We're using it on our Variac, which is more control. You don't have to reach up to the tool. You can control it right down here. So that's my advice to anybody. That's a 3 amp. This is only 1.6. And we used to run our other Dremel off one all the time because it chucked out the speed control. We just wired it full speed. Well, this one's way more complicated. It's got a circuit board, all kinds of goodies in there. So we just took the knob and crammed some wedges in there so it can never move. But I don't know. I mean, this motor's built really good. If you see it inside, you'd see it. Oh, the motor's built just humongous. It's really good. I mean, and all the circuitry is for the speed. But to have a problem like that, the little paper and letter thing coming off was all balled up inside. And then it wouldn't stay clicked on high. It would click itself off high, but it could be because it was shaking and catching stuff before it broke. You know, it could have did something where it just, you know, vibrated so bad it wouldn't stay clicked in. So there's for the woes on that thing. Let's go off to some other subject. Okay, here's something worth talking about, and I'd seen it in a YouTube video. This is not like the stuff years ago. The other stuff I can't remember. Don't quote me if it had a settling in it. See where this is mapp/pro. Okay, and we use it on this torch. If you see me do the videos, okay. Now, just for the fun of it, I took my pencil tip. I used on propane, and this thing burns pretty hot. I mean, I've got some metal pretty hot before with this little thing. I have one that has a wider flame that I use to start the barbecue. But I use this one. I want to get something hot. It's small. It's got a nice pinpoint flame. This was less hot, I'm trying to think of the proper words, than propane. I'm not kidding you. When I hooked it onto here, it did not burn as hot as just propane. So people say, well, these aren't made for both. Well, I guess this isn't made for this stuff. It's made for propane. That's my opinion. It doesn't work as good on this stuff. This works pretty good on propane, but it's not hot like this stuff is. But I have brazed with propane if it's thin enough. This has what's called the Swirl Flame. You're not going to see in there, but there's a swirl in there. So let's see if we get our flashlight in here. Can you kind of see it? Let's pause. I want you to see this in here, because it does swirl when it's running. We'll light it up and show you. Okay, bear with me. Can you see that in there? Those blades? The swirls. We'll hook it up and light it so you can see how it kind of swirls and the flame comes out. That's one of their trademarks or whatever, and I've seen other torches and they say they burn hotter. So let's hook it up and light it up, and then we can see if you can kind of tell how if it's kind of a swirly type flame. Because you've all probably seen the big propane tips. It's just a big old flame. It's not a pointed pencil tip like I just showed you I use on propane, because that is a pencil tip end. Okay, that's wide open. Get like 4 jets. I don't really see no swirl action. Okay, man, I don't know if you can hear me over that roar of that thing. This thing will get hot in this area where I'm working. You fire this up and it starts getting hot around you. It really does. But I don't have to light this to show you. It's a little pointy pencil tip. I don't know if I've had this off and cleaned it, put Teflon tape there or not to seal it. I can't honestly tell you. I don't think I've had this apart to clean it. You know, inside of these old, there's a little bronze jet in there. If you have one of these that it gets where it don't work like it used to, you ain't got nothing to lose. Take it apart. It looks like a bunch of little mashed up bronze little pellets and stuff. Take it and soak it in carburetor cleaner. Because it may look solid with a little bit of hole, but the gas can flow through it. There was some carburetors that had a filter like that. It's like, what's this mashed up little balls of bronze, copper looking stuff? But you know what? Let's take this apart. I'm game. Let's do it. I got more Teflon tape. I want to see if I had this apart once and cleaned this once already. Okay, this one has a jet. When you do this stuff, do it on a towel or soft rag, because that bounces on the table and then you're in trouble. It only goes in one way. There's a beveled end and there's a flat end. Let's get down there close. Can you see that? There's a bevel in here. Trust me, down in there. And then here it's more flat. You can tell it's flat. See that? It's a little bitty jet. So we can turn it around there. There, focus. It is kind of dirty. I want to see if I can see any light through it with my flashlight. It works good, but I still want to see how much light I can see through it. Okay, we're learning something here today, and I'm sorry, I always say I do not have a pointer, but this will work. Okay, I looked through here with the light on this end, right? And I could see light. That's how small that is. I could see light, right? But there's no hole here. Like I said, this has that stuff in there. If I get it up here and set it where you can see it. Bear with me. This is worth the effort. I took some sandpaper to that. Try to get this around here in the light just right. If you get off in the dark and you try to get your light to shine through there, you will see multiple little sparks of light. So that's that stuff, like I said. It's mashed together, whatever. So don't try to make a hole through it. You see how small a sewing needle I got? See? That's what I figured. Well, I can put a sewing needle through this side. I can feel the hole. Right? I can feel the hole in there. I don't think we're going to get a light down in there. Does that look like a lot of little holes to you? Did it? Just for a split second? I'll review the film later. We'll see what your opinion is. Okay, we'll put it back together and light it. I've had trouble with this thing lighting, like it's dirty inside. So I might have had it apart before. You're not supposed to use Teflon tape on gas. Anything with flares or it's got a ferrule. I do it to keep the water and the corrosion out. You see how it's all down in here? I use it to keep water and stuff from getting in the threads. A plumber taught me that. People are going to say, don't be doing that. If you want to do it on a torch, that's your risk. Do not copy me. I may or may not have put that stuff on there. Let's put it together and fire it up. Okay, we're going to try to do this on camera. We're going to barely turn it on. I mean, you could probably barely hear it. But it lit. I've had trouble with that. I had to crank it way up and try to get it poof and go out. That was dirty. Said, don't do like I did, be poking a sewing needle, just soaking some carburetor cleaner. That's better background up there than the foil. That's almost too much. Most stuff I heat, I've usually really about like that. It's kind of hard to tell. I wish I could get it. Here, we'll overdo it. See that? You don't want that. You want that center plane to be as pointy as you can get it. Kind of even like on a cutting torch or a brazing torch. There, that's where I usually run it. Pencil tip. When they get real dirty, you're going to see a lot of sparks fly out and orange garbage. That's just dirt. Like that. That's not some of that's unburned gas, but it could be sucking a bunch of dust from the air. You gotta figure the air's not clean in here. There's your air intake. Okay, now playing with that. That's amazing. See if I can do that again, get it way low. If you've used the shop doing it quite a few things, you know, and you want to pause for a second, you don't want to relight it, or maybe turn it this way, I can run it better. You can turn it way down and conserve your gas. Looking around the camera, see how close I am. And you can't even hear the gas come out. Well, that was fun. We're about done. This might be a short one this week, so if I don't come back with one little more thing, thanks for watching. At least we learned something about that. Don't stick a needle in it like I did. So I thought I'd seen a hole in the end, but it was some black carbon stuff. I took my sandpaper and kind of roughed it up, which you really shouldn't do. You should use carburetor cleaner, but it does light better now. Oh, do not leave these like this and put them up. I don't even care if you're going to be coming back in a couple hours. Just don't do it. You don't know where you're going to end up by the end of the day. Take this thing apart and save your plastic cap, your dust cap. There's your safety tip. Don't leave these hooked up. Don't trust these things. I've got one that leaks. I use light to barbecue with. That's how it was given to me. It'll actually leak. It leaks out of here. And you can't get it apart. So I just use light to barbecue with.